Welcome to you all who have joined us at session C2, Best Practices for CASC Induction Programs, who are sponsoring CalAPA submissions for the RICA. Michelle, we're ready. You have to hang up the phone now. She's got her side. In so many more ways than we can count, we are living through extraordinary times. In fact, I just saw a t-shirt in a catalog that says, "I'm ready for precedent times." We have so many times we've heard we are living in unprecedented times.
Yes.
That this t-shirt wanted to live in precedented times once again. And nothing is more evident of that than the postponement of preliminary requirements and carrying them over into the clear program responsibilities. Coursework and field work that was supposed to be concluded before a candidate enters induction is now to be completed during induction as determined by the candidate needs. So my friends, induction programs such as yours are finding new and unusual ways to support candidates so that they can arrive at a win-win-win. The candidate wins by passing, the preliminary program wins because their candidate was successful, and the CASC program wins because they have an employee who can continue on the first 5 years of induction. So this session is scheduled to be a dialogue, so I'm hoping you're all ready to join us in a discussion. A dialogue on the ways that programs are supporting this unique cadre of candidates. And we have scheduled time for discussions and questions, but first I've also asked 3 programs if they would speak to us on ways that they have found in the past 6 months to best support CASC requirements in a CASC program. First, we have Riverside County Office of Education personnel, who will be followed by a speaker from Brandman. And then finally, I've asked Shelley from Visalia County Office of Education to speak specifically on what they are doing to help with candidates who need to pass the RICA, which aren't as prolific in the admin program as it is in the teacher program world, but we still come across them. So let's get started. It was my pleasure to introduce Dr. Melissa Metz-Hall, who has a keen interest in questioning for deeper learning. Her educational career has included teaching at both high school and elementary levels, and as well as administration at elementary and the county levels currently. Don't be surprised if she asks you to tell her more about your instructional context and invites you into the dialogue. And joining her from Riverside is Ellen Lugos. Ellen retired 2 years ago as the Assistant Superintendent of Upland Unified School District. And you can tell because she's here, she failed at retirement. So previous to Upland, she spent 20 years in the Ontario Montclair schools as a regional director, a director of innovations, a principal coach, a principal, assistant principal, and 8 years as a special education teacher. And Shelley's is on my other computer. I got to pull it up. Shelley Groom has spent 30 years in the field of education. She was a high school English teacher and an avid consultant before becoming the induction director for Visalia Unified School District. And she's been there for the last 12 years. She has 3 children, 2 grandchildren, one of whom is going to kinder for the first day today, and enjoys the mountain skiing and just learning how to play golf. In fact, she was on the golf lessons that I tried to get a hold of her yesterday. And finally, from Brandman, Guadalupe Solis is an assistant professor for Brandman. He teaches in the Masters of Arts Educational Leadership Administration program. He spent the better part of his career in K-12 education as a teacher and an administrator. Another contribution to his leadership is as a board member of the Lemoore Union High School District. In his spare time, you will find him playing music on his sax, reading, writing, or hiking in the Sequoia National Park east of his home in Lemoore. He is committed to the education of all students, and he wanted to note also that he earned his doctorate from the University of San Francisco in international multicultural education. So we're going to start with our Riverside colleagues, and I turn it over to Melissa and Ellen.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Gay. I'm going to share my screen. Ellen and I have prepared a few slides that we do want it more as a conversation, but we had some visuals that we wanted to share. So let me see if I can do this successfully. And if somebody or several somebodies will let me know. Do you see some slides up?
I see them.
It's good.
Yay. Okay. So there you have Ellen's and my name and our roles. And I'm going to hand it off to Ellen for these first few slides.
Great. Thank you. Hello, everyone. We're going to start with a structure that is built into our CASC program, and it's called the Master Coach. In every cohort, coaches and candidates are clustered under a master coach that provides the following support. They facilitate coach PLCs, they serve as extra support for coaches and candidates, they serve as an approval system for initial IIPs and trimesterly portfolio reviews. So we're taking that support and applying it for candidates coming into our program who still need to complete the CalAPA cycles. And the consultant, myself, will serve as a master coach to any coaches who are assigned those candidates. So I will provide training around the CalAPA. I will provide support to coaches and candidates in embedding the cycles into their SMART goals and IIPs. So currently I am a CASC coach and a CASC master coach, but I also serve in the PASC program as the CalAPA consultant. So we're going to embed that into the CASC program. So just our big picture is we're going to borrow from the support we're providing around CalAPA in our PASC program and the pieces of content and process. So we provide Zoom sessions for candidates in the PASC program that kind of follow the calendar of their courses. So once they've finished a course session, I will come in and provide support around that particular steps around the CalAPA through a Zoom and review resources and kind of create a little extra PLC for them before they move into the next couple of steps. So we're going to do that for the CASC candidates as well that still need to complete. So this is just a couple of the tools that we're going to borrow from the PASC program and move them into our support for those candidates in the CASC program. So we have checklists, sample templates, videos, note-taking guides that are provided for each cycle and step, and that's just a screenshot of a sample checklist. And on the other side, it's just showing that we're going to also include those, and there's a screenshot of our sample template that we provide. So those will be the tools that we will support candidates with and also use them in our Zoom sessions.
And then Ellen, if I may, I see that our colleague from Placer County, Melody, is in the room. I'm looking through, and I believe you put some resources in the folder. So Gay, could you let everyone know about the folders? And I don't know if I heard that earlier, but there's resources in there. So I want to make sure people do have that or know about that.
Great. Thanks, Melissa.
Okay, and Gay maybe can't speak right now.
Yep,
So.
I sure can. I didn't want to speak over Ellen. And we do have presenter materials available. If you look at the bottom of page 1 on your agenda, it will take you to that location. If you try and do the shortcut that says presenter materials, don't use that one, actually use the full link. And we are currently in session C.2, and in there you will find materials from our speakers. And as we said, this is a dialogue, so we're asking everyone to contribute. But also Melody is presenting next session in D, and I'll put whatever session it is. I don't know the number off the top of my head. And we'll be presenting there as well.
And she has some wonderful resources. So I checked that folder and I saw those. I had seen those before. So I just, we do collaborate. So those of you who haven't been part of the maybe on the PASC side of things before, we do all share all of our best thinking and these resources. So.
Yes, thank you, Melody. It was really helpful. And then finally, what we're going to mirror in our PASS program into the CASC program is that we do use the PowerSchool platform, and we will house all of these tools and resources so that our CASC candidates that still need to access will have those to support their completion of the CalAPA.
Great. All right, so I wanted to just let you know something else that we have now. Ellen made mention, but for each part of each of the cycle, Ellen has created a slide deck and she's recorded it with her voiceover. But the commission also has some recordings, and I'll defer to Gay here in a minute. But I think this is a really important well, it's certainly an important tool, but I think because these are recorded and it's so they can be, so it's an asynchronous learning opportunity, I think that's a really strong benefit to candidates. You know, time is tight for all of us, and the fact that they can use these videos, I think, is really a strength. And then, as Ellen said, couple that with these, this idea of checklists, and that's what we had a picture of on one of those other screens. But so the asynchronous recording, meaning they can do that at their own pace, and then a checklist which really draws their attention to some nuance. So if you were in my session B3 a little while ago, I was talking about you know, making sure things weren't edited, making sure that they did things collaboratively. That's the type of idea or notion that we include in those checklists. We're really trying to draw their attention to the specifics, and even the language of the rubric is included in some of those. So I did want to bring, because this is supposed to be a conversation, so I don't have an answer right now. I just want to let you know what we're working on, and I'm hoping other folks will share some ideas. We have not finalized, we have a process for enrollment. Certainly, we've always had that, but we haven't finalized how we're really going to make sure what these new CASC candidates are coming in with. It's not like teacher induction where there's the development plan that is a requirement, and I don't expect that the standards are going to change, so I don't think that's going to be a requirement, but it certainly would be something that's going to help us. So I'd love to hear what folks are working on. And then also, this might be a Gay question or Gay answer here. I don't know that if you have just a CASC program, if you're going to have access, or how you're going to have access to the ed reports. So I know Ellen and I were talking, well, if we ask someone for a quote unquote transcript, how do we know that that's authentic? What are we going to have? So that's still a wondering, still kind of waiting to hear. So with that, I want to say thank you. And Gay, you're going to hand it over to someone else, right?
I am, but first I'll address your question about the ed reports. We are currently working on a platform that sponsors of Clear Administration induction programs will be able to log on to look at their candidate scoring and positioning as well. So that is in the works. I don't think it's quite yet finalized.
So accessing, but through differently, is that what I heard?
Yes, it will be very different because it'll be a short-term kind of a thing.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen, for your partnership.
You too, Alyssa.
Okay, let's move on to Brandman University, and we have Guadalupe Solis with us today and sharing with a different perspective from a college and university. So, Lupe, take it away.
Good morning. Good to see you all. Our program is a smaller program, but very committed to supporting our students throughout their program. We run kind of a support, both the preliminary credential and the CASC together, so that some of the supports are so that there's a continuation of support throughout both programs. Some of the tools that we have, of course, for the for the students is a beginning and point and middle of the 2-year program that we have, and so they're clearly supported through that. We have conferences that we have for them throughout their program, beginning each session. Our sessions are 8 weeks in length. And so we have a preliminary time to communicate with them and support them in their work as they go through the program. In the program, critical to our all of the courses is that critical reflection, and we feel that it's key to their learning and their experience as they go through the CASC program. This has started in the preliminary program as well. Our preliminary program is primarily, it is all online and has been for its inception. Of course, the CASC program since COVID-19 has had to go online as well for now. There are some cases where some of the students who are in the CASC program have their coach from within their school, and so that helps provide some face-to-face, but limited as such. Key to this is our e-journals. The students are required to do e-journals and submit them, and you use a couple of platforms. One is Blackboard, and also the other platform is a thing called Live Text, which is a place where students can provide and post their work into, including an induction portfolio during that time. The coaches are also provided support throughout their experience while they're participating in supporting our students. We have sessions before each eight-week sessions, and we have a time when we come together and talk about the rubrics, talk about the assignments within that session, and then make sure that we calibrate the work and also the rubrics as we go through the process. It's been really, really interesting because we spend much more time supporting our candidates through this whole process because of the needs that they have. Some of them already have, of course, are working as administrators and require a whole lot more support during this time. The process of our coaches is critical in that, so we spend some time hiring them. We do an interview process for coaches who are recognized by the university out of a pool that we have, and then we also have those candidates that prefer to have their own coach, and they also go through a process of being interviewed by myself and another colleague, and so but they go through the same training process before the 8-week sessions. Okay. Perhaps the most important thing that I've learned in the last 4 years of being involved in this program has been the support that the students are given by both the instructors, the coaches, and the mentors, both in the preliminary and the clear credential. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then the next one, before we start opening the mic for all of us to speak, is I've asked Shelley Groom to please speak about how her district office, couldn't think it was county or district, her district office supports those who come in with a RICA specifically. And you can broaden that comments to support in general as well. So Shelley?
Thank you, Gay, and thank you again for bringing us all together. I see Lupe and Melissa and Ellen as resources for these shifts between the prelim and the clear. This is new for folks who only have clear programs. These preliminary requirements are new for us, whether it's in the clear administrative program or the clear teaching program. So I appreciate you, Gay, bringing folks together so that we can share our resources. I was a part of a Gay's we had a little brainstorm session about the CASC program and how we might support our candidates who might still need to meet these requirements. And these folks were there. We learned a lot from one another. One of the topics that came up was completing the RICA test, which might not be as common for an administrator. Hopefully they've been able to navigate through that by the time they become an administrator, but it can happen. So in those conversations, we talked a little bit about what we've learned here at Visalia Unified and how to support teachers or administrators who need to take that RICA test. Our background in that has really been aligned with the ed specialists that are new to us. At any given time over these last several years, we'll have between 50 to 75 new education specialists here at Visalia Unified. And they may be on emergency credentials, a PIP or a STIP, and we have lots of interns. And it's the ed specialist interns where we really refined how we could support that RICA and collaborate with their preliminary program that they are involved with. And we do partner with...
I'm gonna listen. Yeah, me too.
What was that? Can you guys hear me okay? Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So yes, working with those ed specialists. What we learned from that, often the ed specialist might be teaching at an upper elementary or middle or high school setting where that early literacy piece isn't a highlight of the work that they do. And we've got a couple of my teachers on special assignment here who have been key in helping with that. What we try to do with them is really really individualize where that teacher needed support in relation to the test. So the important part of that is that they take the test first. They study the best they can. They take that RICA test first so we can see where the holes are, so we can see where they are lacking. Depending on the individual, we would recreate some experiences for them and partner them with an elementary teacher who had passed the test. So we would partner this education specialist. One in particular I can think of was a high school ed specialist who wasn't familiar with, I think Melissa said it earlier, they need to be familiar with the language of the test. So we would partner them with an elementary teacher, have them go in and observe with the test in mind and with those standards in mind so they could kind of pick up on the language. The scenarios as part of RICA are probably the most challenging, and how do you respond to these different scenarios? This one candidate, there were several candidates, but this one candidate then moved to actually completing the video for the RICA test. Those who are here joining us today may not know that there is a video option that candidates can take in order to pass that RICA requirement. So this ed specialist then did the video portion and utilized this teacher's classroom. It was a wonderful collaboration, and the two learned so much from one another. Crazily, this candidate didn't pass the video, but learned a lot, and then the next time he took the test, he passed the test. So, you know, as educational leaders, we need to be there in whatever capacity we can to help these up-and-coming teachers pass these requirements. I don't like to think of them as hoops to jump through because the test is purposeful. They need to know these standards. They need to know these systems. They need to know how to interact with students who are just learning the language. At the same time, they can feel a little like a hoop. So what we try to do on our end, we try our best to make this test purposeful, help the candidates learn what is applicable from the test to their teaching, and then give them some tips on passing that test. by having them collaborate with folks who've already passed it. So I hope, Gay, that was kind of what you were after for this breakout session. And I am here too if folks have questions about the RICA in connection to the CASC candidates or even to teacher candidates that you might be working with. And thank you again, Gay, for inviting me to be a part of the panel today.
Thank you very much, Shelley. It's nice to know others have gone before and helped us think through some of these things that are very, very new to us. And because we've already gotten a preview of our next session with Melody, I'm going to put her on the spot and ask her to speak early. And somebody else already mentioned in the chat how much those resources are for someone who is new to admin induction and how helpful they were. So Melody, if you want to share what is you've already posted, please.
Sure. So I oversee both the PASC and the CASC programs for the Placer County Office of Education, which definitely has its moments where that's an advantage because I know what those candidates need to complete if they don't complete the cycles in their PASC program. And so what I have found is, and I'm in a unique situation as well as that of all of my CASC candidates, I only have 2 right now that did not finish their CalAPA submissions. I think we all know that's going to look very different next year for sure. So as I kind of process and think about the things I can do to support those candidates now that have transitioned into CASC, I'm finding that some of the tools and resources that I use as learning tools in our learning labs for preparation for the CalAPA, I'm utilizing those same tools with my CASC candidates that need to complete those cycles. And so it's really supporting them in how to think reflectively and what types of questions to ask. Let's say in cycle 3, their volunteer teacher that gets them to have that reflective or self-assessment type of conversation. So if you look in that folder for resources, and it'll, I'm speaking in the next session, so it will also be posted in that folder as well. But I've taken some set tools and I have provided tools for cycle 1, cycle 2, and cycle 3. And for cycle 2 and cycle 3, because they have a lot to do with interacting with teachers or a group of people, it's providing them those sentence stems to foster the kind of conversation that might support them in how they construct their narrative responses or their videotaped sessions. As well in their I've created, aligned with the assessment guides, a checklist for candidates to use as they are creating and finalizing their submissions. Instead of having to thumb through the assessment guide, it's a kind of summarized a checklist where they can go through and they can check off that they haven't missed a key component within a particular cycle. And all of those requirements are based on at least a 3 or higher on the rubric so that we know that they're thinking along those lines. As well as in their, and I apologize, I don't have it up right now because I didn't know Gay was going to ask me to do this. That's okay, Gay. But there's also some tools in there that will, a peer feedback form, which as we all know, especially as past directors and support people, that some of the best feedback that candidates can get are from one another because they can be very direct in, you are missing this, or you need to make sure you say this, where in our roles, we have to be very mindful in the way that we support them and provide them feedback. So again, it's all based on no less than a 3 on the rubric, and it provides a place for the peer to give direct feedback and to give direct support of what they might suggest for them. So it's that great discussion piece. I actually have my candidates use the peer review form on themselves as well, as just another form of a checklist to support them. Oh gosh, I think there's some other pieces in there. I haven't quite finalized it yet, but I should have it in the folder probably by tomorrow morning. I have one piece to support cycle 1 that I haven't used with my candidates before, getting ready to use it with them. It's an Iceberg model. I'm sure some of you are very familiar with the problem of practice when it comes to the Iceberg model, where, you know, you look at the 10% and that's what we see, but it's the 90% underneath the water, what we need to be paying attention to. It aligns really, really well with understanding about contributing factors, right? Those mental models that are in our head and what we need to consider. And then what are those artifacts? What are those structural, contributing factors that could be playing into an equity gap? And so it helps the candidate really organize that process of what they're looking at of the different components of the CalAPA Cycle 1. So I'll be adding that here in the next day or so, and you can take a look at it and see if it works for you. What I tell everybody when I share my resources with them is that take it and make it better. Do me a favor, take them, make them better. This is only my second year in the program, but I just kind of took a step back and pretended I was a candidate. And as a candidate, what would I need? What would I want someone to support me with? And so as you go through, you'll see all the different ways that I came at it from different lenses. So is there anything else, Gay, you wanted me to touch on?
Well, you could just keep speaking. You're always so full of great information that we'll all just sit and take it all in, write it down, steal your good ideas.
I will make sure I put my contact information in the folder. The last time that I presented for induction, I presented my tools, and I had some really great questions that came at me that not only helped me kind of reassess my tool, but also made me realize that maybe I need to present it to my candidate differently. So if one of you were asking me that question, then they for sure would be asking me that question. So but please don't hesitate to reach out to me and ask a question or give me a suggestion. And I'm all about the creation of it. So you give me the idea and I'll create it for you.
I like that. Their questionings helped you refine yours better. We all continue to learn. We learn together. Well, we have a variety of folks in this session, from those who are totally online, those at IHEs, those in district or county offices. We have Tracy Robinson here with the Access program, a lot of places where we're coming from. And I'm sure all of you are looking for ways to help support the candidates who need preliminary needs. So we'd like to open the microphone at this time and let any of you share some of the things that you're doing that have come to mind while you've heard our three speakers so far.
Gay, I just wanted to comment. Thank you, Melanie, for all the work you're doing, because all the IHEs are working on that kind of a resource, and there's no one template, and so they really appreciate that. We're also doing the same thing with Cycle 1, 2, and the preliminary, and 3 in the preliminary programs, which is really critical for the students who are in the program, because some of the students may not have any experience in any of the evaluation of teachers, or looking at teachers, or coaching with teachers, and so forth in Cycle 3. So I want to thank you for that. That was very helpful, and look forward to looking on your website. Thank you.
Hi, Gay. This is Kristen Coyle. I know that I think I was going to present a little bit, but I had trouble getting into the session. So I just want to echo what Shelley said about bringing us together, you know, that colleagues helping colleagues. And I want to shout out to Melody. She definitely has shared some of her resources, and so is Kathy Condren. I can't thank her enough as well, from Madera County Office of Ed. So I just wanted to say that something that we are offering to our, like Melody, she only has 2 right now. We only have 1 right now, not even from our past program. This came from a different county office. And this individual was well into, you know, has already passed cycles 1, 2, and just had cycles 3 remaining. So I'm kind of new to this as far as what our process is going to be, but I agree with Melody that it's going to grow as next year unfolds itself. One thing that we are finding really helpful is our CalAPA office hours that actually has a specific focus, and we just lucked out that our office hours was in sync with cycle 3 for this individual to come into. And so we're allowing her to join our office hours. And we're also providing, one thing I wanted to share, we do have a module, a training, very dense cycle module for each one of our cycles. And so in a Zoom one-on-one meeting with the coach and the CASC participant and the institute, we go over and share this PowerPoint presentation, and we have a dashboard that we use. So we put all of these tools onto the dashboard and have a very specific training for the coach and the CASC participant to take advantage of a lot of these materials that we are already using in the CASC program. And I think I heard a lot of that, but I echo what I heard. The training module, the expanded templates, those came in from Madeira. They are fabulous. The key considerations for each of the cycles, and the checklists that Melody put together, as well as Madeira. We've kind of adapted and changed and added to it. But right now, I'm not getting a sense that our one participant is feeling overwhelmed. So that's a good thing. But anxious to see where this, what this looks like next year. So I just really wanted to jump in to say thank you to our colleagues that are sharing their support. Great community.
Thank you very much, Kristen. Do you have anyone else who would like to share how they are meeting their candidate needs?
Okay,
I have
wondering. Thinking
I love
about
wonderings.
Yes. So I have a wondering about how the numbers might change. And based on numbers changing, and I guess I'm imagining that means numbers of candidates who need support would go up. Are all of our structures that we have, do they have the capacity? So you heard Ellen talk about her being able to work with master coaches. I suspect we will, but I'm just wondering in other areas what we're anticipating, that if we're handling things now, what might we need to do if those numbers increase?
Right. And if you think about it, this happened late into the semester in March. People were already pretty much done in a lot of ways. For our candidates in the 2021 years, it's happening at the beginning. So we're finding from the get-go, they're having a more difficult time in completing these sessions. So I think you're right in the numbers going up. On the other side of that coin, because it's an administrative job, we have folks who are saying, I'm just going to sit on my administrative work. I'm going to stay a teacher or a counselor or a nurse. I know I have that position. I know what I'm doing in that position, and they're not stepping out to be an administrator. So as Shelley said, she has one candidate. A couple other folks, Kristen said she had one. They're not a whole lot out there. In fact, I was going to ask you guys, when we had a summer session and started talking about support, a lot of our programs around Shelley were saying, we're not expecting to have that many. So as a program director who has a grasp on the CalAPA, I'm thinking I'm just going to come alongside their regular mentor and just be an additional mentor support for them, rather than having to do another layer of training for all of my supervisors, so they may or may not have a candidate and have to support them. So I wondered, did that play out, or did you find that you really have to have someone else be support for them?
Is that question specifically for me, Gay?
And that's for anybody who has thought, yeah, that's what we started thinking. We were going to just have one person, and we found out it didn't work.
Right, right. No, really individualizing. And it's the same with our teacher induction program and the TPA. We have we've sort of developed, with the admin program, there's only one, and we have 38 candidates, and out of those, there was only one. So definitely just individualizing and learning, frankly, right along with the candidate and the coach. With the TPAs, we've developed additional cohorts, really. We have 155 induction candidates, and of those, about 30 or 40 who need these requirements, whether it's both cycles of TPA, the RICA. So we've kind of made some cohorts, and we are learning that as well. Again, I mentioned I have a couple of my teachers on assignment here in this session, and they've been, because they're a little more boots on the ground with those teachers, really just coming alongside them and seeing what their needs are. And then we're learning about the TPA, because we're not unfamiliar. I think I shouted back out to Jamie there. Part of our work here at Visalia Unified is supporting teachers who are on STIPs, PIPs, or on intern credentials. So we're somewhat familiar, but in terms of really guiding the candidate, we're learning as well. And being transparent about that with our candidates. We are learning. Here's what we've learned. The resources that CTC provides are invaluable. I can't tell you how important those are to guide us so that we can guide them. But individualizing it, we're all about mentoring and coaching. Induction, intern, preliminary, it's all about coaching one another. And so we can do anything. Yes. As long as we're there supporting one another. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it.
It always reminded me of when we were dating way back when. My husband drove a stick shift, and I only had, what's the opposite of stick shift? Automatic. And he could tell me 14 times how to drive a stick shift. But it wasn't until I got into his sports car and tried to drive it that I realized I needed to know a lot more about the coordination and the depth of the policy. And so that's what it reminds me of is, you know what a CalAPA is or a CalTPA is. But until you actually get behind the wheel and have to start coaching someone on it, that's a whole new ballgame.
Gay, and right now it is manageable, because I oversee both programs and I only have the two in CASC that need to work on it. I am that additional coach, so they have their CASC coach that guides them through and meeting those program standards, and then I'm stepping in as that second coach to lead them through their last cycle. Because right now that's feasible and that's reasonable, and to be perfectly honest, I'm one of 3 people that has pretty intimate knowledge of the CalAPA. Yeah. And my CASC coaches are relatively, for the most part, retired administrators. So this is like a foreign concept to them. Yeah. And so, yes, right now, I'm wearing several different hats. Next year, I know that's not going to be reasonable. And I can't coach 75 people and do PASC program as well, right? And not that all of these folks will go into, administrative positions, but it's going to become exponentially more difficult. And so what I'm trying to incorporate right now, especially just those layers of understanding what the language and the requirements for the CalAPA, that's what my coach, my CASC coach meetings are all about from now until August. We're going through the cycle. I am taking these veteran coaches through the cycle to make them familiar with language, because I have some that are so intrigued by it that now they're stepping up and saying, next year when you have a candidate, I think I can be that support if you'll help me, Mel. So we'll be able to tag team again, but I'll be able to hopefully release some of that responsibility off to them.
That makes sense over that time lap too. As Melissa noticed, Erica had her hand raised. Melissa, would you like to unmute yourself? Erica, would you like to unmute yourself and share with us?
Thanks, Gay. My name is Erica. I'm the program coordinator for UCI, and I can relate to everything everybody is saying. I wanted to go back to the very beginning when Melissa and Ellen were talking, and they're taking their CASC support for the CalAPA and giving it to their CLEAR program. We've obviously done the same thing and are going to be doing the same thing. I was kind of curious, though, those support for the preliminary students that you are giving to the CLEAR, is your support going to be separate? Again, we're doing like Shelley and Melody's talking about the individual support, the extra support. In our preliminary program, we have about, for lack of a better word, 4 orientations. Okay, the orientation to the program, and then 3 separate orientations, 1 on each CalAPA. We found when we did the orientations as a different day of the week, so it didn't conflict with the students' coursework, students wouldn't show up. They wouldn't take advantage of it. They would just wait till the recording. So what we actually started doing was actually embedding those CalAPA orientations within a class. So students are showing up for class, they're showing up for that, they're going to get the information. They can't come back to us later saying, I didn't know the answer to this question. How could you not know the answer to the question? It was in the orientation. If you watched the orientation or if you attended the orientation, you would know the answer to this. So we're kind of taking advantage of the fact they're showing up to class, you're getting it there embedded in the course. So if we have these 3 separate orientations for our preliminary students, the question is, do we invite case by case the CLEAR students to attend those live orientations with our preliminary students? And if you've done that, have you ever seen any conflict between having a CLEAR student participate with a class of preliminary students?
Yeah, great question, Erica. And so, yes, we invite everybody. That, I mean, you've heard that, and I know you already know that, and Susan's in the room there. I think she was. So yeah, we all invite everybody in, and no difficulties, to have both categories of folks. It is a little different. You're speaking, I think you're UCI, right?
Correct.
And so we at the county, for our prelim, of course, there's classes and there's support. And then for the CLEAR, that's so much more. It's not run on a class type basis. So it is different. Yes, we have an orientation. Yes, we have training for the coaches. And then, Ellen, maybe you could add a little bit about the master coach, because I keep going back to something I so much believe and learned from UDL, is that variability is the norm, right? And there's the falsehood or the misnomer of average. So there is no average candidate. And so we have to know what each one of these individuals needs. So Ellen, you could probably add to that.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. And again, we're planning for something that hasn't occurred yet. We don't have any candidates yet. So it's kind of that continuum of where you've talked about what the numbers might look like. So when you do have maybe just a couple, it can be, I see very clearly how we can provide really quality support that's individualized, and we have coaches that have taught in our past program. We have resources that can go in and use the framework of support that we use in past. We think we'll have plenty of support. It is thinking about if the cohort grows with the number of candidates that need that support, we're going to have to figure out how to create structures and systems, still keeping that individualized, because they're going to be coming from all different lenses of where they are and what they still need. So it's kind of trying to think about those 2 things at the same time. I think everything you guys have said about really collaborating and working with the candidates and coaches closely to see what level of support they need, and being able to, and not just one size fits all. I think we have to think about that, whether we have a couple of people or have, maybe a pretty big cohort. But I think the conversation you guys are having is so helpful, and making, I know for me in my role, feeling very confident that we're going to figure this out, and it's and it's going to go well, and you guys are all great resources. But I take that Erica's question, because the CASC program is so individualized. We're going to have to figure out how to provide support that it is optional, but also gives them that what they need in their particular case.
Can I just add something that came to me that we haven't said? We can't assume what order is going to be the right order for these folks. So I know that we're thinking that, but I don't know if I really heard that into the space. So maybe we do have more folks. Number one, I know we're going to sign off here, more folks, and then that greater variability of what they need to work on or what they choose to work on, or what's going to be the best choice for them if we don't want this to seem additional, if we want this to be supportive. I better be quiet and hand it over to Gay. So it's great to be with you.
And real quick, Gay, I just wanted to say that what we've done is try to encourage our folks to, in the preliminary, in which they have a mentor in that program as well, to really address the CalAPA cycle 1, 2, and 3 while they're in the coursework, so that when they get to the clear, it's just a clear program and not having to deal with the cycles 1, 2, and 3 as well. So it's really, and we reinforce that throughout the program so that, and they align to the different courses that are being taught as well.
Right, which is very helpful when you have districts who allow videotaping and allow them to come in and do the work. So, but it becomes very quickly frustrating if those things are taken away as well.
Correct.
And unfortunately, we have run out of time. It's 12 o'clock and ready for our lunch break. Thank you all for attending, and thank you so much for those of you who spoke and shared your stories from your program. So thank you very much, and we'll see you at 12:50 for our next one, and it's D3 if you want to come back and hear Melody and talk on hers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gay.
Sure.
Thank you, Gay. Thanks, everybody.